A struggling single mom asked a stranger for a ride, and never imagined he was a millionaire CEO. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Have you ever had a moment when a simple request changed your life forever? Well, that's exactly what happened to Sarah. She never expected that asking a stranger for a ride would lead her to a millionaire CEO who would change everything for her. The next morning, Sarah sat at the small kitchen table in her modest apartment, the familiar hum of the refrigerator and the distant noise of traffic filling the space. She stared at her phone in disbelief, still holding onto the email from Liam Parker that she had received late last night. The subject line still seemed surreal, from Liam Parker, a business opportunity. Her heart raced as she reread the words, each sentence sinking in deeper. It felt like a dream, one she wasn't sure was real. Was this really happening? She had barely gotten through the night, tossing and turning, replaying every detail of their brief encounter. Liam, the kind man who had given her a ride, was offering her a chance, an actual opportunity to work for one of the top tech companies in the city. The thought seemed impossible. She wasn't qualified. She had no formal training in tech. But then again, maybe that was the point. Maybe he had seen something in her, something that she herself hadn't even recognized. She opened the email again, trying to make sense of it. The words were clear, but her mind was clouded with doubt. Sarah, I didn't forget our conversation last night. I've been thinking about your situation. If you're willing, I'd like to offer you a position with my company. There's a lot of potential, and I think you'd be a perfect fit. Let me know if you're interested. It was simple. No strings attached. No mention of her qualifications, no talk about experience. Just an offer to join his team. Sarah couldn't remember the last time she had been offered something so simple, so direct. Her life had always been a series of struggles, one after another. She had never thought she would find herself in a position like this, where a complete stranger saw her potential and believed in her enough to offer her a chance. But with a life as unpredictable as hers, she had learned not to get her hopes up. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a message from her best friend, Jenny. Did you hear from him? What's the deal? Sarah hesitated before replying. She had told Jenny about Liam's offer, but part of her wasn't sure she was ready to take that leap. She couldn't help but wonder why Liam was doing this. Why was he offering her, a waitress with no experience in his field, a chance at something so big? He wants me to come in for an interview, Sarah texted back. He says I'm a perfect fit. Jenny replied almost instantly, wait, are you serious? A perfect fit? For what? What kind of job is it? Sarah paused, unsure of what to say. She didn't want to seem like she was bragging, especially when she wasn't even sure she believed it herself. But she also didn't want to pass up the opportunity. I don't know exactly, Sarah typed. But it's real. He believes in me. She felt a little ridiculous saying it out loud, but it was the truth. Liam's faith in her was something she hadn't expected, and she didn't know what to make of it. Jenny's next text came in quick succession. That's amazing. You have to go. This could be your chance to get out of this rut. Don't overthink it. Just go. Sarah stared at the screen for a moment, letting Jenny's words sink in. It was hard to believe that after all these years of scraping by, of just trying to keep her head above water, someone like Liam Parker would offer her a way out. But could she really do this? Could she leave her comfort zone, her familiar struggles, and take a chance on something bigger? Taking a deep breath, Sarah put her phone down and walked over to the window. She could hear the distant sound of children playing in the street, the hustle and bustle of the city outside. Her son, Ethan, was still asleep in his room, oblivious to the whirlwind of emotion swirling inside her. She thought about all the sacrifices she had made to get this far, raising Ethan alone, working double shifts, trying to provide him with a better life than the one she had growing up. And yet, here she was, being offered a chance to change everything. She had always told herself that she had to do everything on her own. That she couldn't rely on anyone else. But maybe this was the universe telling her that it was okay to accept help. Maybe it was time to take a risk. Sarah took a deep breath, grabbed her phone, and started typing a response to Liam. "I'm interested. When can we meet?" She hit send before she could talk herself out of it. It was done. She had made the decision. Now, all she had to do was show up and see where this unexpected opportunity could take her. The next morning, Sarah found herself sitting nervously in the sleek, modern lobby of Liam Parker's office building, the glossy marble floors reflecting the bright, artificial lights above. She was underdressed compared to the well-dressed employees bustling around her. Her fingers nervously twisted the strap of her purse as she glanced around, feeling out of place in this high-end corporate environment. The reality of the situation was starting to sink in. She, a waitress from a small diner, was about to meet the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech company. The thought made her stomach churn with both excitement and anxiety. A soft chime rang from the elevator, and out stepped a well-dressed woman with a clipboard. She approached Sarah with a professional smile, her demeanor calm and assured. "Sarah? Mr. Parker is ready to see you." Sarah stood up, her legs feeling like jelly as she followed the woman into the elevator. The doors closed, and they began their ascent to the top floor. The ride was smooth, but Sarah's heart raced, each floor passing by quickly as she tried to calm her nerves. "It'll be fine," she whispered to herself. "Just a meeting, nothing more." When the elevator doors opened, Sarah was led into a large office with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline. The room was minimalist but impressive, decorated in shades of grey and black. With sleek, modern furniture. Liam Parker stood by the window, his back to her, looking every bit the powerful CEO she had imagined him to be. He turned around as she entered, his face breaking into a warm smile, though there was a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "Sarah, it's good to finally meet you in person," he said, his voice calm and steady. "Please, have a seat." He motioned to the chair across from his desk. As Sarah sat down, she noticed the faint lines of exhaustion on his face, despite his composed demeanor. He was more than just the tech mogul she had imagined, there was something more human about him than she had expected. "Thank you for meeting with me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I wasn't sure if you were serious about the job offer." Liam chuckled softly, leaning back in his chair. "I understand your hesitation," he said, his tone relaxed. "But I saw something in you, Sarah. Something beyond your resume, something I think could be a great asset to this company." Sarah blinked, surprised. "I don't have experience in tech. I've never worked in anything like this before," she admitted, feeling a wave of doubt washing over her. Liam smiled, his eyes softening. "Experience can be learned. But passion, drive, and honesty, those are harder to come by. And I saw all of that in you when we spoke." His words were comforting, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong here, in this world of high-powered CEOs and cutting-edge technology. "I'm just a waitress," she said quietly, almost to herself. "I don't belong in a place like this." Liam's expression softened further as he leaned forward, his eyes locking with hers. "You belong here more than you know, Sarah. Don't sell yourself short." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "I wasn't offering you a job just out of kindness. I think you have a lot to offer, and I want to give you the chance to prove it, to yourself and to everyone else." Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. His words hit her harder than she expected. She had spent so many years doubting her worth, and now, here was a man who believed in her, even when she couldn't believe in herself. I don't know what to say," she stammered, overwhelmed by the weight of his offer. "You don't have to say anything right now," Liam said, his voice warm and reassuring. "Take your time. I just wanted you to know that this is a real opportunity, one that could change everything for you. The rest is up to you. Sarah nodded slowly, her mind racing. This was it, the moment that could change everything. But was she ready to take the leap? Was she ready to step into a world she had never imagined? The room felt both too large and too small as she tried to process everything, her heart pounding in her chest. I need to think about it, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam smiled, nodding in understanding. Of course. Take all the time you need. But don't forget, this opportunity isn't just about what I can offer. It's about what you can do with it. As Sarah left Liam's office, she felt both empowered and unsure. She had taken the first step by showing up, by stepping into a world she never thought she would be part of. But now, the real test awaited. Could she overcome her doubts and embrace the opportunity Liam had offered her? Only time would tell, but for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt the spark of possibility. And maybe that was enough. Sarah spent the next few days in a whirlwind of emotions. She couldn't stop thinking about the meeting with Liam and his offer. The weight of the decision sat heavily on her shoulders, each thought filled with doubt and uncertainty. Could she really take a leap into a world so far removed from her own? She had always worked hard, done everything herself, never asking for help, never allowing herself to rely on anyone. But this was different. Liam had seen something in her, something she had never seen in herself. And that scared her. It was Thursday morning when she finally made the decision. Sarah stood in front of her modest bathroom mirror, smoothing her hair down and adjusting her blouse. She looked at her reflection, her thoughts swirling. This is it, she whispered, taking a deep breath. Time to stop doubting. She grabbed her phone from the counter and sent a message to Liam, I'm in. When can I start? Within minutes, she received a reply. Great to. Here, Sarah. I'll have my assistant send over the details. We'll meet again soon. Welcome aboard. She stared at the screen, her heart racing. A mix of excitement and fear flooded her chest, but she couldn't back out now. She had made her choice. The next few days passed in a blur as Sarah prepared for her new job. She arranged for a sitter to watch Ethan while she worked, though it broke her heart to leave him each morning. She didn't want him to feel abandoned, but she knew this was the best chance for them. This job wasn't just about her, it was about creating a future for both of them. On her first day, she arrived early, standing outside the building, looking up at the tall glass structure that now felt like an insurmountable wall. She had worked in diners, in places where people didn't care who you were or where you came from. This world was different. Everything about it screamed success, wealth, and power. As Sarah walked through the revolving doors, her nerves intensified. She was led to a spacious, open-plan office where she would be working, a stark contrast to the cramped, noisy diner she had spent so many years in. The space was sleek and modern, with large windows offering a panoramic view of the city. It was beautiful, but intimidating. The woman who greeted her was friendly but efficient, quickly showing her the ropes and introducing her to the team. Sarah felt like an outsider, but she kept her head down and focused on the task at hand. She couldn't afford to waste this opportunity. As the day went on, she found herself catching glimpses of Liam. He was everywhere, his presence looming over the entire office, his voice carrying authority as he walked through the halls. She had seen him as a kind man, someone who believed in her, but now, in this environment, he was a CEO. The man who owned this world. It was a lot to take in, but Sarah reminded herself that she was here for a reason. By the end of the day, she was exhausted but also proud of herself. She had made it through the first day, and it had been better than she expected. The people were kind, though the work was challenging. There was no turning back now. As she left the office that evening, she stepped into the elevator, feeling a sense of accomplishment that she hadn't felt in years. When she reached the ground floor, she stepped out into the bustling city streets. The noise of the city was louder than usual, but for the first time in a long time, Sarah didn't mind. She had taken the first step toward a new life. That night, as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, she thought about Liam. He had been kind to her from the start, offering her a chance when no one else had. She hadn't realized it then, but now she saw that his belief in her had been the spark she needed. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe in herself too. The next morning, she received an email from Liam's assistant. It was an invitation to a company event, a gala. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she read the details. She wasn't sure if she was ready for something like this, but she knew it would be important. She couldn't let this opportunity slip away. She decided to go, even though the thought of mingling with the city's elite made her stomach twist. She had come this far, and there was no turning back now. The night of the gala, Sarah stood in front of her closet, staring at the dresses hanging inside. She didn't have anything fancy, but she knew she had to look the part. She settled on a simple, elegant black dress she had bought on sale months ago. It wasn't much, but it was all she had. As she made her way to the venue, her nerves hit a new high. She was stepping into a world that seemed so far beyond her reach, but somehow she felt like she belonged. When she arrived, the bright lights of the gala hit her like a wave, and she took a deep breath before stepping inside. This was the beginning of something big. And tonight, she was going to make the most of it. The night of the gala arrived, and Sarah felt a wave of nerves wash over her as she stood in front of the full-length mirror in her small apartment. The simple black dress she had chosen was nothing extravagant, but it was the best she had, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a spark of confidence. She took a deep breath and adjusted the dress one last time before stepping out of the door. The streets of the city were busy with the usual nighttime hustle, but tonight, everything felt different. She hailed a cab and gave the driver the address of the venue. The gala was being held at a luxurious hotel downtown, and the building loomed ahead as the cab slowly approached. As the vehicle pulled up to the entrance, Sarah's heart began to race. The valet opened the door for her, and she stepped out onto the red carpet, the bright lights of the cameras flashing all around her. She felt completely out of place in this world of high society, but she pushed the feeling aside and reminded herself why she was here. This was an opportunity she couldn't afford to waste. She walked into the grand ballroom, the sound of soft music and the hum of conversations filling the air. The room was breathtaking, with glittering chandeliers hanging overhead and long tables laden with elegant food and drink. People were dressed to impress, their laughter and chatter creating a buzz of energy that made Sarah feel even smaller. She scanned the room, unsure of where to go or who to approach. She felt like an outsider among the polished, confident individuals surrounding her. But just as she began to feel overwhelmed, she caught sight of Liam across the room. He was speaking with a group of men, his presence commanding yet calm, but as soon as their eyes met, he smiled and excused himself from the conversation. He walked toward her, and Sarah felt her nerves intensify. Liam stopped in front of her, his smile warm and genuine, making Sarah feel at ease. "You made it," he said, his voice reassuring. "I'm glad to see you here." Sarah returned his smile, though she could still feel the flutter of nerves in her stomach. "Thank you for inviting me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "This is amazing." "I'm glad you like it," Liam said, his gaze softening. "You belong here, Sarah. Don't forget that." His words were simple, but they meant more than she realized. As the night went on, Liam introduced Sarah to several of his colleagues, each one offering kind words and warm handshakes. Despite her initial nervousness, Sarah began to feel a bit more comfortable. The people here weren't as intimidating as she had first thought. They were just people, like her, trying to make their way in the world. The evening was filled with laughter, music, and conversations, and Sarah found herself slowly opening up. She had always believed that she didn't belong in this kind of world, but tonight, she was beginning to see that she might be wrong. As the night progressed, the conversation shifted toward business, and Sarah found herself engaged in a discussion with one of Liam's top executives. She listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering her own opinions when appropriate. The more she participated, the more confident she became. For the first time in ages, Sarah felt like she wasn't just a waitress struggling to make ends meet, she was someone with valuable ideas, someone who could contribute. As the evening drew to a close, Liam pulled Sarah aside. "You did great tonight," he said, his voice sincere. "I'm proud of you." Sarah felt a rush of warmth at his words. "Thank you," she said, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "I wasn't sure I could do it, but you were right. I do belong here." Liam nodded, his eyes soft with encouragement. "You've got this, Sarah. I knew from the beginning that you had what it takes." Sarah felt a surge of emotion at his words, and for the first time in a long time, she believed in herself too. As they stood there in the quiet of the ballroom, the noise of the party fading into the background, Sarah realized something. This wasn't just a job offer anymore, it was a chance to rewrite her story, to create the life she had always dreamed of for herself and for Ethan. And with Liam's belief in her, she felt ready to take on whatever came next. The night ended with Sarah stepping out into the cool night air, a sense of accomplishment and hope filling her heart. She had taken the first steps into a new world, and though the road ahead would be challenging, she was no longer afraid. She was ready to embrace it. The following week, Sarah's life began to change in ways she hadn't expected. She arrived at the office early every morning, eager to prove herself. The work was challenging, but Sarah found herself rising to the occasion. The more she learned, the more confident she became. The tasks were unfamiliar at first, but with every project, every meeting, she could feel herself growing. Liam continued to mentor her, offering guidance and encouragement when she needed it. He would stop by her desk during the day, checking in with a smile and a word of advice, always making sure she knew she had his support. Sarah couldn't believe how far she had come in such a short amount of time. She had gone from a waitress barely getting by to a valued member of a top tech company, all because one person had believed in her. And as much as she had doubted herself in the beginning, she was beginning to see that maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she was meant to be. As Sarah settled into her new routine, she couldn't help but notice the subtle changes in her relationship with Liam. He had always been kind to her, but there was something more to the way he looked at her now. It wasn't just the professional respect he had for her work, but something deeper, something personal. At first, Sarah wasn't sure what to make of it. Liam was her boss, and she didn't want to read too much into small gestures, like the way he would always ask how her day was or offer to walk her to her car after long hours at the office. She kept her distance, focusing on her work and pushing any thoughts of a potential relationship to the back of her mind. But as time went on, the feelings she had tried to suppress began to surface. It was a Wednesday afternoon when the moment finally came. Sarah had stayed late at the office, finishing up a presentation for an important client. The office was quiet, the hum of the computers the only sound filling the space. She was just about to leave when Liam appeared at the door of her office, his usual calm demeanor replaced with something a little more serious. "Sarah, could we talk for a minute?" he asked, his voice softer than usual. Sarah looked up, a little surprised but nodding. "Of course. What's up?" Liam stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. There was a slight hesitation in his movements, and Sarah could feel the shift in the air between them. He was different tonight, and she could sense it. "I've been meaning to ask you something," he began, his gaze meeting hers. "How are you really doing here? I know things have been fast-paced, and I just want to make sure you're not feeling overwhelmed." Sarah smiled, touched by his concern. "I'm doing okay, Liam," she said. "It's been a lot, but I'm handling it. I really appreciate you checking in." He nodded but didn't seem fully convinced. "You're doing great," he said, his tone genuine. "But I know you've been working extra hard. If you ever need anything, someone to talk to, or if you need a break, don't hesitate to ask. I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself, too." His words made Sarah's heart skip a beat. She had never expected such kindness from her boss, and it was in that moment that she realized just how much she valued him, not just as a mentor, but as a person. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you, Liam," she said softly. That means a lot. There was a pause, a quiet moment where the world seemed to stand still. And then, without thinking, Sarah took a step closer to him. She began, but the words caught in her throat. Liam didn't say anything at first, but his eyes softened, and before Sarah knew what was happening, he reached out, gently cupping her cheek. The touch was so tender, so reassuring, that Sarah felt her breath catch. She looked up at him, her heart racing, and in that instant, she knew. She knew that everything had changed between them. Liam didn't pull away, instead, he leaned in slightly, his forehead resting gently against hers. "Sarah," he said, his voice low and sincere, "I've admired you from the moment I met you. Not just for your work, but for who you are." Sarah's pulse quickened, the air between them charged with an energy she couldn't deny. For the first time, she allowed herself to truly believe in the connection between them. "I think I've felt the same way," she whispered, her voice barely audible. And then, with a sense of inevitability, their lips met. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if they were both testing the waters. But as the seconds passed, it deepened, the world around them disappearing as they lost themselves in each other. When they finally pulled away, they both stood there, breathless, eyes locked in a mixture of wonder and realization. "I think we just crossed a line," Sarah said, her voice filled with awe. Liam chuckled softly, his thumb gently brushing her cheek. "I think we did," he said, his smile warm. "But I don't regret it." Neither did Sarah. In that moment, everything seemed to fall into place. She wasn't just working for Liam anymore, she was beginning to understand the real reason she had come to this place. It wasn't just about a job or an opportunity, it was about finding something real, something worth fighting for. And with Liam, she felt like she had finally found it. In the days that followed their kiss, everything seemed to change between Sarah and Liam. The connection that had always been there, simmering beneath the surface, was now undeniable, but neither of them knew what to do with it. They were walking a fine line, balancing their professional relationship with the undeniable attraction they both felt. Sarah tried to focus on her work, pushing aside the lingering thoughts of Liam, but it was impossible to ignore the tension that now hung in the air whenever they were in the same room. The subtle glances, the small touches, the way Liam's voice seemed to soften whenever he spoke to her, it was clear that things had shifted. But Sarah wasn't sure where it was going. She had never been in a situation like this before. Her feelings for Liam were real, but she couldn't help but wonder if she was just getting caught up in the moment. Was she risking everything she had worked for, her career, just for the possibility of a relationship? And then, there was the reality of their different worlds. Liam was a successful CEO with a life filled with power, wealth, and influence. Sarah, on the other hand, had come from nothing. She was still working her way up, still finding her place in this new world. Could they ever be truly equal? These thoughts weighed heavily on her as she sat at her desk late one evening, reviewing a report for a client. She had been working non-stop for days, and tonight was no different. The office was quiet, the only sound being the soft tapping of her keyboard as she worked. She hadn't realized how much time had passed until she heard a soft knock on her office door. She looked up to see Liam standing there, a slight smile on his face. "You're still here?" he asked, stepping inside. "I thought you were going to take a break tonight." Sarah smiled, but it was a tired smile. "I'm almost done. Just wanted to get this out of the way before tomorrow." Liam walked over to her desk, leaning against the edge. "You've been working too hard," he said, his voice soft. "I appreciate your dedication, but you need to take care of yourself too." Sarah looked at him, her heart racing. She couldn't deny that there was something about the way he looked at her, the way he cared for her, that made her feel safe, like she was finally where she belonged. But at the same time, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was in over her head. "I'm fine," she said, trying to sound confident, though her voice betrayed her. Liam raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. "Sarah," he said, his tone more serious now, "you don't have to prove anything to me. You're doing great, but you need to take a step back sometimes. I care about you, and I don't want to see you burn out." His words hit her harder than she expected. She had always prided herself on being strong, on handling everything herself, but hearing Liam say that he cared for her, it made her feel vulnerable, exposed. For a moment, she didn't know how to respond. She had never let anyone get this close, never allowed herself to rely on anyone. But Liam wasn't like anyone else. He saw something in her that no one else had. He believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. I don't know what to say, Sarah whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Liam smiled, his eyes warm. You don't have to say anything. Just know that you're not alone in this. Sarah looked up at him, feeling a lump form in her throat. It was as if all the walls she had built up over the years were slowly crumbling, and she wasn't sure how to stop it. For the first time, she realized just how much she had come to depend on Liam, not just as a mentor, but as someone who truly cared for her. And maybe, just maybe, she cared for him too. Thank you, she said quietly, her eyes locking with his. Liam stepped closer, his hand gently brushing her arm. I'm here for you, Sarah. No matter what. It was then that Sarah knew she couldn't keep running from her feelings. She had spent so much time pushing people away, telling herself that she didn't need anyone, but Liam had shown her a different way. A way where it was okay to trust, to lean on someone, and to let them in. That night, as she left the office, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. It was as if the pieces of her life were finally falling into place. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, she was ready to embrace it. Ready to let herself believe in the possibility of love, of happiness, of a life beyond survival. And with Liam by her side, maybe, just maybe, it was all possible. The following weeks were a blur for Sarah. The relationship between her and Liam continued to evolve, but it was a delicate balance between the professional and personal. They both knew they were treading carefully, but the chemistry between them was undeniable, and every passing day only brought them closer. Sarah was still finding her footing in her new role, but Liam's support and encouragement helped her grow more confident. She found herself taking on more responsibility at work, handling client meetings, and even contributing ideas that had impressed the team. Liam had a way of making her believe in herself, something she hadn't felt in years. Despite the growing closeness between them, Sarah couldn't shake the nagging feeling of uncertainty. She had always been independent, and the idea of depending on someone, especially someone like Liam, was hard for her to accept. She wasn't sure if it was her past struggles or her fear of being vulnerable, but it made her hesitant. She had come from nothing, and even though Liam had shown her kindness and care, a part of her still felt like she didn't truly belong in his world. One evening, as Sarah was preparing to leave the office, Liam asked her to stay for a private conversation. "Sarah, can we talk for a moment?" he said, his voice calm, but serious. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She had a feeling she knew where this conversation was going. "Sure, what's up?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam motioned for her to sit down. He sat across from her, his expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking about us," he began, his eyes never leaving hers. "I know things have been complicated, but I think it's time we had an honest conversation about where this is going." Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. She had been waiting for this moment, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure how to respond. "Liam, I don't know if I'm ready for all of this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure I can fully let go of all the fears I've carried with me for so long." Liam's expression softened, and he reached across the desk, gently taking her hand in his. "Sarah," he said softly, "I'm not asking you to give up anything. I'm asking for a chance to show you that you don't have to carry everything alone anymore." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The sincerity in his voice was undeniable, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe she could let go of her fears. "I want to believe that," she said, her voice shaky. "But I'm scared. I've always had to rely on myself, and I'm not sure if I can let someone in." Liam smiled gently, squeezing her hand. "You don't have to do it all alone anymore, Sarah. I'm here for you, no matter what. And I think we can figure this out together. Sarah looked down at their joined hands, the weight of his words sinking in. She realized that her fear of vulnerability wasn't something that had to define her. With Liam, she could take a chance, not just with her career, but with her heart. Okay, she said quietly, lifting her gaze to meet his. Let's do this. Let's figure this out. The relief that washed over her was palpable, and for the first time, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She was ready to take that leap, to trust, and to build something real. The next few days felt different. The tension that had once existed between them melted away, replaced by an easy comfort that came with honesty and mutual understanding. They continued to work side by side, but there was no denying the growing bond between them. Sarah had started to see Liam not just as her boss, but as someone she deeply cared for. And he, too, had started to see her not just as an employee, but as a person who had a profound impact on his life. As they sat down together at the end of another long workday, Liam turned to her, his eyes filled with warmth. I know this hasn't been easy, Sarah, but I'm so proud of you. You've come so far, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with a mixture of gratitude and affection. I couldn't have done it without you, she said, her voice full of emotion. You've shown me a side of myself I never knew existed. I'm just so grateful. Liam reached over, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch gentle and caring. I'm grateful for you too, Sarah. More than you know. And in that moment, as they sat together in the quiet of the office, Sarah realized that everything had changed. She wasn't the same person she had been when she first walked into that building. She was stronger, more confident, and, for the first time in a long time, she felt truly loved. They had built something together, something real, and it was only just beginning. Weeks passed, and Sarah found herself fully immersed in her new life. Every day, she felt more comfortable in her role at the company, taking on new challenges and proving to herself that she was capable of so much more than she had ever imagined. Liam continued to support her, not just as a boss but as someone who genuinely cared about her well-being. Their connection grew deeper, and they found themselves spending more time together outside of the office, slowly building something real and meaningful. One evening, as Sarah was leaving the office, she received a text from Liam. Dinner tonight? Just the two of us, she smiled at the message, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It had been a long week, and the idea of spending time with Liam, away from the pressure of work, felt like the perfect way to unwind. She quickly replied, Sounds perfect. I'll meet you there. When she arrived at the restaurant, she saw Liam already waiting at a small table in the corner. His face lit up when he saw her, and for a moment, it felt like everything else faded away. As they sat down and ordered, they exchanged stories about their week, laughing and joking as if the world outside didn't exist. But as the conversation turned to more personal matters, Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had come so far in such a short time, but there was one thing she had never truly addressed, her fear of opening up fully, of letting herself be vulnerable. Liam, she began, her voice soft but steady, I've been thinking a lot about everything. About us. And I don't want to hold back anymore. Liam looked at her, his expression understanding and kind. Sarah, he said gently, you don't have to hold back with me. I've never asked you to change who you are, and I never will. Sarah took a deep breath, gathering the courage to say what had been weighing on her heart. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared that I'll mess this up, that I'm not enough. I've been on my own for so long, and letting someone in, it feels like a risk. But I don't want to let that fear hold me back anymore. I want to take the next step with you, Liam. I just needed to say it out loud. The words hung in the air, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. But then Liam reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. You are enough, Sarah, he said, his voice full of sincerity. You've always been enough. And I'm not going anywhere. We'll take this one step at a time, together. A sense of relief flooded over Sarah as she looked into Liam's eyes. For the first time, she realized that it wasn't about being perfect or having everything figured out. It was about trust, about finding someone who would stand by you no matter what, through the ups and downs. That was what Liam had given her, a sense of security, a sense of belonging. Over the next few months, their relationship blossomed. They continued to support each other both professionally and personally, finding a balance between their work lives and their time together. Sarah began to realize that she didn't need to be afraid of vulnerability anymore. She had someone who would catch her if she fell, someone who truly saw her for who she was and loved her anyway. One afternoon, as they sat together at the office, Liam turned to Sarah with a serious look in his eyes. "I've been thinking," he said, his tone more thoughtful than usual. "I want to ask you something." Sarah raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. "What's on your mind?" Liam took a deep breath before continuing. "I've never felt this way about anyone before, Sarah. You've changed my life in ways I never expected. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you." His words hit her like a wave, and for a moment, Sarah couldn't speak. She had never expected this moment, but now that it was here, everything felt so clear. "Liam," she said softly, her voice full of emotion, "I feel the same way. I never thought I could feel this happy, this complete. With you." Liam smiled, his eyes filled with love. "Will you marry me, Sarah?" The words hung in the air, and Sarah felt her heart swell with joy. She had found the love she never thought she deserved, the life she had always dreamed of. And in this moment, everything fell into place. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with happiness. "Yes, I will." In that moment, Sarah knew that her life had changed forever. She had gone from a waitress struggling to make ends meet to a woman who had found not only success and independence but love and acceptance in ways she had never imagined. With Liam by her side, she knew that anything was possible. Their journey together had only just begun, but Sarah felt ready for whatever the future held. They had built something beautiful together, something worth fighting for. And with that they stepped forward into their future, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came their way.